Good afternoon, guys. Well, it's morning here, but today we're going to be attempting a project that I've been trying to put off for a little bit, but got tired of buying power steering fluid. So we are going to do the power steering pump on my 1989 Ford Ranger with a 2.9 liter V6. I'll kind of be going in depth on how to take the belt off and get all the bolts out and how to do it, and also give you some tips and tricks along the way. If you have any questions, please comment them down below. Ignore my dirty truck, but the part number for the pump is 6199. You can see it's actually reman pump, so it's A1 Cardone, which actually is a Ford pump, so it's a Ford reman, from what my understanding. So the warranty is pretty good on it. I went with it because I've always had good luck with reman products, and this truck is a reman truck, let's be honest with ourselves. So here's the pump itself. It's actually in a pretty good spot. What I'm going to first try to do is try to pull those bolts out so we can take off that V-belt, and then work on getting this bracket off. So you got to pull this bolt, and so a whole bunch of other bolts will kind of show, but here's one, there's one, there's one. They're kind of all hidden, so you got to pull the right ones and hope for the best. Obviously I'm not too worried about it. It's a pretty simple little thing to do. You just got to pull a lot of bolts. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll talk through what I'm going to do. One thing I'd like to point out here, this is your adjustment bolt. So you're going to loosen that one up first, and that will kind of pull the bracket out a little bit, or actually push it in so you can get the belt off better. So a little backstory on why I'm actually doing the pump. So the pump is leaking quite a bit. I think the seal in between the reservoir and the pump bodies actually failed. Now people may say, oh, why don't you just rebuild the pump built for a tough? Well, here's the thing, right? It's cheaper for me just to buy the actual pump and not have to worry about me putting it back together and messing it up even further. So I just bought the new pump. It's going to go in. If you know Fords, their power steering pumps are commonly a weak point, so we're just going to bypass all that, throw a whole new pump in. So these bolts right here, these are all 13 millimeters. This bolt right here was a 15 millimeter. All right, so for that little line right there, it is a 5/8 line wrench. Now, I will say, don't be a goddamn hack and think you can put vice grips on this and ruin that fitting, because it's not going to work. Here's the easiest way to do it. Just go ahead and just get a set of line wrenches. These are Craftsman. I think they cost me like 40 bucks. And that way you don't strip these damn things out and and make a hour-and-a-half job a 5-hour job. Another thing. So once you get about 4 bolts pulled out, depending on your model, the pump just is attached to the bracket. There's no need to pull this whole bracket off. I'm going to try not to, but if I have to, I have to. I'm going to try to press this pulley off while it's on the car and make sure it goes right. And then we're going to see if we can get this off without having to pull the whole bracket. Because if you pull the whole bracket, there's a good chance you may have to relocate everything, and that may be a pain in the dick. So we're just going to go ahead and pull this line off here, and then pull the return line, which is right off the back here. Going to pull that line off right back there, and we're going to make sure nothing's leaking, nothing's bad, and then we're going to go from there. But so that's the deal with that. Alright, so I got this little pulley tool from the Irish auto parts store, O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly, please sponsor me. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to apply pressure inward using this screw, and it's going to, this collar is wrapped around the little pieces of the pulley, and it's going to force pressure outward and essentially pull this right off the shaft. At least we hope. So we're going to go ahead and, so people use impacts on this. I would not recommend it. Since I have a lot of room, I'm just going to play with it and see if I can get it off on the car. If you cannot get it with the impact, I would not recommend it. These are not impact rated, but you know, it's the aluminum tool. Do whatever you got to do. I'm not going to judge you. All right, let's give it a shot. So you can see, oh, sorry about that. You can see a little bit of daylight right there. That is the pulleys coming off. I'm out of breath because it took a little bit, but you can get it off. I just had to tighten that little bolt right there down a little bit. Now, got the power steering pump out. You can see this little bit of fluid spillage from when I took the line off. But here is residual leak from, and I'll show you what I think it's from. Again, not good to have on your power steering pump. It was about losing about a quart every 3 or 4 days. But see how this end play here? That's not what you want to see. That's a full like 3-4 inches of end play, and it's a little hard to turn, which is not good. And you can see that end play and this probably front seal and everything is just kind of leaking all over. Good. We're gonna look at the pump, look at the new pump, and I'll show you the difference in the end plays. All right, so I got the new pump. I start putting the other bracket on it. So there's the old pump, there's the new pump. You see the colors on it. Looks real nice and clean. But these bracket bolts here, they are about, they weren't on too tight. So I'd say, you know, give it a little 2-finger torque. Obviously, I don't use torque wrenches here unless it's wheels, something on the engine. But make sure you tighten this down pretty good. You can see the end play is less than obviously that. So notate's a good part. We're good to go. So I got the pump all wrangled in and the pulley on. I forgot to take a video of it, but essentially you stick the tool inside of here. It's a long metal bolt, and then it has a little press fitting on the end of it, and you just kind of crank it in and it presses it back onto this press fit pulley shaft actually. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reconnect the line back here. So obviously you want to hand tighten it in. You don't want to crank on it because you don't want to strip it. They are very common to strip. Then you put the return line on the bottom. See where my hand's at? See a little nipple where my thumb's at? That's where you're going to put the power steering return line on. And then put the belt back on it, fill it with fluid, and run it. See what happens. Alright, so at this point, once you got the belt on, it's actually kind of nice. This little screw here, what you do is you line everything up, loosen all the bolts, not totally, but just loosen them enough. Back this all the way down, slip the belt on, and then tighten this down, and that will bring the pump this way, and it will tighten up the belt for you. And once that's tight, you just tighten on the bolts and you're done. Now, what I'm going to do is demonstrate how to bleed this. So this is Ford Type F. Well, not Ford, but Super Tech automatic transmission fluid Type F. Used in a lot of old transmissions and gearboxes. Now, according to the service information I have, Ford ran Type F in these systems until Mercon 3 was invented by Ford. Dexcon, Mercon, another transmission fluid. Type F is about $3 cheaper per quart, and I just wanted to get this thing up and running. So we'll do a little longevity test on it, but theoretically speaking, if the pump can run Mercon, it'll run Type F. So after you initially started it, you can see the little air bubbles in it. We're going to take care of those real fast. So what you're going to do now is you're going to start it and run it, and then move the steering wheel side to side, side to side to make sure all the air bubbles get out of the system. See, with the engine running, we don't have a whole lot of air bubbles there, just 1 or 2. But simply what I'm doing here is just moving the steering wheel left and right, left and right, left and right. Make sure you get all the air bubbles worked out of the system.